I'm going to show you how to become a firefighter at your technology startup, boost your team morale, and make lots of friends. So, as we all know, working at startups can be quite a challenge. There's always so many competing priorities. Lots of products being developed, customers calling in, issues of all sorts, right? The boss shows up at the end of the day, says, could you work overtime because we got this XYZ, and so on and so on and so on. Now, having firefighting skills is extremely valuable to the organization. Why? Because you're the one handling the issues, or whoever is the firefighter, while the rest of the team can focus on their designated work. That's a big deal. You're handling crap for other people. And coincidentally, that's how you make lots of friends. You're helping them to focus on their regular work while you're the one, assuming you're the firefighter, you're the one dealing with all the issues head on. Now, would you consider having such a position? It's not for the faint of heart, but it is very rewarding, and it's also enabling to the team. So let me share with you some tactics on how to become a firefighter, how to boost the team morale, and in the process, make lots of friends. Now, the first key to success is simply for you to say yes to the on-call. Just raise your hand and say, yes, I'm going to be there over the weekend. I'm going to be there for the night deployments. Jump in with both feet, say yes, and dig in. Remember, if you're a junior engineer, never fear. You will be partnered up with a senior engineer to make sure that you don't run into issues. The next key success is to identify parts of the system, the components, that are most likely to fail. So in the process of doing that, you'll probably end up testing system, the happy path, right? If everything aligns, if everything works right, this is what's supposed to happen. But the real trick is to understand when components fail and what does that look like? What kind of behavior does the system exhibit when things fall apart? That right there, that ability to diagnose the issue quickly when the sky is falling, all the lights are on, everybody is on you, saying, what's going on? We got to fix it, and so on, right? Being able to understand how things or the components of the system behave when they're not working properly is absolutely fundamental towards solving the problem and doing it rapidly under pressure. And then the last key to success is to own the permanent fix, which means you have to be willing to do the code, deployment, testing, unit, whatever you got to do, update documentations, train the people. That is key. You have to own it all the way through. Make sure it's deployed, it's running, it's permanently fixed, and it will never come back up again. So what are the outcomes out of this? Being on point, being the firefighter, puts you in a high pressure situation, let's be honest. But at the same time, it really helps you to learn quickly in almost a rapid mode. It's firefighting, right? So you have to resolve the issue right there. And so you develop an ability to quickly assess the issue at hand. Eventually you see patterns. You see the same set of issues repeat over and over again. And so it's a little bit easier for you to fix it next time, maybe in another system, maybe in another component. And that's how you progress from guessing what's happening to knowing exactly what's happening, or at least having approximation ability so that you can dive in and quickly navigate to the solution. That's a big deal. And don't forget, every problem you solve is a good story to bring up at your performance review. So your willingness to take the issues head on enables the rest of the team to focus on their work. They do appreciate this. you would be providing, as a firefighter, you would be providing an extremely critical service to the rest of your team. When you handle other people's problems, those people have a tendency to become your friends, or at least look at you in a friendly way. Don't forget your leadership. They will also see you perform under duress, and the fact that you own the fix will impress them even more. So you're making friends there as well. Now, before I dive into the details, for those that don't know me, I'm Philip, an engineering leader sharing practical shortcuts to help you work smarter, not harder, in your technology startup. Okay, let's get into the details. So how do you become a firefighter? Well, it simply begins with you raising your hand, saying yes to on-call. You will have to be available on the weekends, maybe after hours, to monitor the systems, make sure everything is okay. But don't fear this, especially when you're a junior engineer. You will be paired up with a senior engineer to make sure you don't run into issues. The big deal is you get exposure, first-hand exposure to whatever is happening right there. That's your best opportunity to just be forced into that situation. You do have to pay attention to detail, so make sure you read all existing documentation. If you can, talk to the engineers that actually worked on the system. But the idea is that you dig in really, really deep so that you have some idea, some understanding of the entire system, all of its components, how they interact with each other. And typically, the best source of that is the documentation and original engineers. Now, when you do get to work on an issue, please make sure to document everything. How the issue occurred, who did what actually happened, when it happened, where it happened, and why it happened. It's absolutely critical. The next person will immensely appreciate your contribution to this documentation. And also, in case you get to see this issue again, you're gonna have some place where you can go look it up. Next, let's talk about system analysis. For you to become a very effective firefighter, you really do have to understand at a very in-depth level how the entire system operates. Try to understand its architecture. Try to understand all the inputs and the outputs, the expected behavior of the system, the happy path, certainly the happy path, right? Just so that you understand how everything is supposed to flow. The next level is to understand when the systems do not behave correctly. So knowing those exceptions, understanding when a component blows up, how the issues will be manifesting themselves. Yes, it could be entries in the log, but it could also be that it seems like it's working, and then you get to see farther downstream something that is an indicator that, oh my God, this failed all the way in the beginning. So it's important that you truly understand what each of the components does when it's not working correctly. And understanding those exceptions, that helps you to diagnose the issue in real time when the problem does come up, right? That's what makes you like really good as a firefighter. And then you do have access, most likely, to lower tiered environments. So dev, QA, staging, whatever you want to call it. But that's your playground, right? Try different things. Try to break the system. Try to run the unit test and see what happens. Get a feel for what the entire system does and how it's behaving. And especially when you start breaking things, just to observe what happens. Right? That's a big deal here. And finally, own the fix, right? This is your opportunity to enable the rest of the team to focus on their work. So you step up, you own it. You have to be responsible for the code, for deploying it, testing, updating documentation, creating operational playbooks, even training your fellow team members. The big deal though is you step up and say, I'm going to own it. You're going to see it all the way through to the end. Make sure that it's a permanent fix, it's working, and everybody else around you will love you for that because you're taking care of that problem. That's a big deal. You're allowing them to focus. You're allowing your fellow team members to focus on their primary job responsibilities and not having to stress out. And that is a great way to make a lot of friends, or at least you'll be on friendly terms with everybody. Let me put it that way. Now, when you do come up with a permanent fix, I would ask you to consider the impact of the fix you're proposing. Sometimes it's easy, right? It's really simple. It's rebooting something, resetting something, maybe tweaking the code slightly. But sometimes it requires a little bit of thought process. So be mindful of the impact of your fix on people, process, and technology. Is your fix actually making things better, or is it complicating someone else's job downstream? You should at least entertain that, and then see if you can apply Pareto principle, the 80-20 rule. So in terms of like the things that you have to build to address the issue, what is the 20% of the work absolutely necessary that can deliver 80% of the value? So in this iteration, you could simply focus on the most critical component fix, and then next couple of iterations down the road, you could finish off the remaining 20% or 10% or something like that. But the idea is to deliver the most value in a very rapid fashion early on if possible. And the ownership mentality, I cannot emphasize this enough. It is one of the most sought after character traits. Every leader, every team member, everybody around you will appreciate the fact that you're willing to step up and own the fix. It really is that big of a deal. So how does this help you? It's a win-win-win play. Your team is enabled to continue to be focused on their primary work, right? You're handling the weekend on-call duty or after hours support, and you're also the one fixing the problem. That is a big deal. The team will very much appreciate your contribution. Next is the leadership, the management. They are watching you being the firefighter, handling all those issues under duress, right? You're literally in the line of fire. They very much appreciate this. And the very fact that you're willing to own the fix, having that ownership mentality where you go in both feet and you fix the problem and you handle all of it all the way through deployment, implementing the permanent fix. Again, you're making friends everywhere. Both your team members, your leadership can also be your team members. Win-win-win for everybody. And never forget, every fix, every problem you handle, it's a great story to bring up at your performance review. And that is why you want to become a great firefighter in your technology startup.